3 days in a row of single digits. It's supposed to go up into the low teens by lunchtime. I think I'm going to find some work to do down in the cellar today. We have one more day of this really cold weather, supposedly. And for me, it's real important to sequence up a day that I can get something done, because this weekend Luciano's coming down with some parts to check the fit on the RD. We'll get to hear about his cafe racer. And Karen's making some very special soup for lunch. So that means I'll be able to pull a wheel off the bike conveniently in a couple of days, a day or two. I don't want to be out in this temperature. It is really brutal. I'm really getting sick of this. I feel like a penguin out here. Go to Antarctica to warm up. And that's why it is so nice to do these restorations in the winter and not the summer. Holy crow. A good excuse to be down the cellar. And one of the real joys every morning, chopping the ice. Oh my God, is it cold out here. Just a funny thing to mention, a couple of years ago we got a very high efficiency furnace in the house, and our heating bill has gone way down, but I love the fact that the chimney is on the side of the house. That's pretty cool. Oh, it's up to 12 degrees already. Wow. Hey, maybe we'll get a ride in this afternoon. Who the hell knows? Wow. Real feels 9. You can't even make this up. If you wanted to. How good does that coffee taste when it's below freezing? Really below freezing. It's 10 degrees out there or something crazy. Now this morning, as I'm having my coffee, I got an email from, well, pretty much lifelong friend Ruben McBride, who has recently, or not recently, a while ago, moved to Las Vegas. And he said in the email that he has basically seen every video I've ever made. I know that's true. And he loves to paint. Now, his question was, and I told him I would answer it on video, Ruben, this is for you. And I know you're living in Las Vegas where it's warm. And believe me, God forbid you were here today, you'd die. He's worried about the paint edges. And I thought of a test. He says whenever he pulls up the paint, he's been watching the videos and doing exactly what I do. But out in Vegas, those edges are not coming out exactly right. So I thought I'd spend about 15, 20 seconds talking about this. Now I did a little experiment myself on, and I don't remember what part it was. It might have been on the fairing. Maybe it's on here. I don't remember. And what I did, it was for my own, just an experiment. I used an airbrush to do the edges. Now, believe me, if you were here and you close your eyes, you cannot feel those stripes. But that's true of all the things I do. So, I don't know if I'm doing something that in different shop conditions would require a different set of ways of doing it, I guess is the right way to say it. But I thought of a test. And because I did a lot of paint development for Brodak over the years, and I think that product has proven itself pretty well in the real world, here's the way I would suggest you test for your shop conditions. So I think this is information really worth sharing, because Ruben, I know, has been painting. He was painting even when he lived in New Jersey. And you need it, this is a piece of glass, and what I did, I decided to keep the decals, the spares, attached right to the glass so they don't tend to curl up. This is a test in itself. So now, and I'm always prone to want to do my own testing, and I've done it for many, many years, of course. So here's what I'm suggesting you do. You're getting to a point in a painting project where you've got to do the striping. And Luciano tomorrow is bringing over his parts so I can paint the ladders on. The only problem is he's used Rust-Oleum, and I'm going to go into detail about that and see how that works out. We've learned our Rust-Oleum lessons over the years. Maybe we got to relearn them. I don't know. We're going to find out. Here's the point. Everybody's shop condition is different. If you were out in my condition right now, it's probably 65 degrees. I like it a little on the chilly side. I don't like to be hot. I wouldn't survive very well out in Las Vegas, I don't think. In fact, I was there one time and I couldn't wait to get home. But it was the weather. It's not the people or the place or whatever. So anyway, this is the test, and I think this is something you can do. If you don't have a piece of glass, you could use an old motorcycle part. If you're doing a model plane, you could use an old model plane part. But this I never did, to be honest. I did a lot of paint testing professionally and just for a hobby over the years, but I never did this test. Now, and I'll explain why in a minute. And this is good information to share. This is the 3M blue tape. You can pretty much do this in any shop. I have a suspicion what's going on with Ruben, but I'm not sure. But this is a test. I really won't do it when Luciano's parts are here. I'd do it on my own parts, but I will do this at some future time. Now, you've got this laid down. What would happen in the olden days when this tape was really masking tape? It would bleed under the edge. This modern tape doesn't bleed under the edge, so that's really one problem you don't have. But what we would do in the world of modeling was take an airbrush with some clear and just go right along the edge, or even a small brush. And among the model airplane videos that I've made, and I think there's 1,000 of them, but there might only be 800, I don't know. Getting the edge sealed was always the problem. Modern tape doesn't have that problem of sealing the edge. But you do have another problem, and Turbo Steve brought this to my attention. He said, oh, you know, he's always been of the belief, and he's an excellent painter, of course, also. And you paint and you wait 1 hour, or as soon as you can touch the paint, you pull the tape up, and that gives you the best edge. Well, I never did that. I was always old school from doing lacquer and acrylic lacquer. I always let it dry, and this really is good information. I'd let it dry 24 hours, but that's under my shop conditions. So what I'm suggesting Ruben could do, a day or two before you're going to do the trim, take the paint that you're going to use, take a spare part, paint the whole thing. I can't paint today, obviously. It's 10 degrees out there. So now look at your watch. 1 hour later, pull up the tape. See what that line looks like. Wait 4 or 5 hours, some amount of time, pick it. Pull the next line. Is that tape line better than that tape line? Now, and by the way, this is how you do professional paint testing if you're not a professional paint tester like I was in the past. And I mean professional. I love doing this, so I really put my heart and soul in it. Now wait 24 hours. See what that edge looks like. Now, it's going to be, the material is going to determine it. Lacquer, Brodak dope, acrylic lacquer, modern paint, carb paint, urethane. It's going to be, each one is going to be different. But they're going to be different in your shop conditions too. Then the last one, you can do this test yourself. Pull that tape edge up at some point in time. I don't have a credit card with me. Take a credit card, go at a 45-degree angle. I've shown that. You don't want to overdo that though, because if you're using white paint or a light color and you scratch it, it's going to show. If you're doing black, it's not going to show. Then the last thing you can do is take one piece of tape and just airbrush it, just enough with an airbrush that you have an edge. Let it dry. And I bet what's going to happen when you pull that tape up, because that's what I found with this FZR. When I pulled that up, that edge was so smooth and neat, and you can see it in the final product. You can see it. So that's a paint test, and that's information I think anybody can really use in the real world, because having those razor sharp, nice paint edges, and this is why Luciano is bringing his parts over here so I can do the ladders on his cafe racer. Because getting those edges nice is something I really take a lot of pride in, and I've had a lot of practice too. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy not only painting, I enjoy sharing the information, and I enjoy it when somebody emails me and says, wow, it worked just like you said it was. I want my money back. So I know that went on and on and on, but I feel like people that actually enjoy this, and I could rub my fingers over this and you can't feel anything. And to me, that's part of a really high quality paint job. And I have been to really the highest end car shows there are, where people really have beautiful stuff. And a lot of times, I think my stuff's better, but and believe me, I'm not prejudiced either. No, this is really, this job in particular is one I'm really proud of. So, and because we have the whole thing on video, and anybody that sat through it all, I've tried to put all that information on, because I know there are people out there that want to be able to do that in their shop conditions and take the pride of doing it when they're done. The buffing, the sanding, the taping, and everything. And I'm very passionate about trying to pass on that information. Not sure how successful I am, but I've tried. So because of the weather and because of several other factors trying to get ready for Luciano's project, I'd like to clean up some of these loose ends in the shop. I thought one of the things I could do today, I can get this assembled. Now, I have all brand new hardware, and this part, among others, it needs, I want to make sure I have exactly the right hardware that I should have. There's a lot of little things now. One of the things is this edge, I have some paint buildup in here because we have an extreme amount of clear on here and on here. So a lot of these edges, this is not as easy as it looks. I'm going to have to do a real careful sanding away of the paint to get that edge exactly the way I want it. And I call that, and I know they do in the world of car shows, fits and finishes, and it takes time. And that's why I have this project I can work on today, and if I get done with this and this works out okay, then the day I take the wheel off the bike, it's always easier to put the fender on when the wheel is not there. Some of these bolts and things, the wheel is always in the way. I'm not sure that's going to be the case, but it'll be to my advantage to get this done today. Now what I have is, I have plenty of the old hardware, but I also bought brand new hardware. So I'm going to hopefully be able to use brand new hardware when I do this. Just for reference, all this hardware that I have, and this is all for fairing mounts and stuff I'm going to use, all this stuff came from a place called Bolt. And you get it right there, Bolt Depot. And what I try to use whenever it's something that's not, I don't need a grade 8 bolt. You don't need a grade 8 bolt to hold the fender on. I like to use polished stainless steel. Now the reason I can polish this up, and I bought these in various sizes, polish the head up like a mirror, it'll stay that way for years and it never ever rusts. On something that had like an engine mount bolt, I'd rather use a grade 8 bolt, but putting a fairing on, you don't need grade 8 bolts, that's for sure. And a lot of things, these bolts never rust or corrode. They stay nice and shiny for years on end. Now this is one of the things that I really, see, here's the thing. I don't try to set some time window for doing this. I don't say, well, I have to have this done by 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or something. Because sometimes just fitting these parts in and getting all the edges nice and square and straight, what happens? These parts have all been repaired. They all have little jobs of glue, Bondo, fiberglass. But I know right now I need a mating surface here that's perfectly flat. Second of all, you don't see this, but you will see it if you leave this lump of material on here. You can't do this until all the clear is on. Your fits and finishes get all hokey. And there's nothing worse than you look at some really beautiful restoration of anything, and the fits and finishes, somebody rushed through them to get them done in one afternoon. Well, even a little thing like our front fender, we're going to take our time because I want to get rid of anything that's going to make this fit not perfect. It's going to take a little time, and if I don't get to do the windshield today, I'll do it tomorrow. I had planned to do, I wasn't planning until I got Ruben's email on doing that, but that's certainly good, useful information. Now you can always tell, anytime, just make an example up, if these two things join together and you've got a good fit and finish, then you paint this and you paint this. When you go to put them together, there's a gap, and that gap might not be equal. And if you get a little, in this case, it looks like there's a little Bondo or something down there. You never know. A lot of these parts are really big. Don't forget, this stuff is 30 years old too. But I will pick away at this, I was watching Bitchin' Rides the other night, and they did the hood fit. They had to replace the hinges that open the hood on. I don't even remember. I don't care about the car. I care about the workmanship. And they struggled with it and take the hood off, put the hood on, the fenders, move them around. But they got the fits and finishes real nice. And that's going to be the assembly, especially putting a fairing back on the bike. I plan on spending a lot of time getting all of those fits and finishes exactly right, not almost right. Now, I have to see this surface here, because once I put it back, this surface here has to be not only flat, but I've got to do the mating surface that's on the fender at the same time too. This just takes a lot of time, but it's well worth it in the end. Now what's real handy to have is a hard sanding block, some 220 paper, and it's this surface here, I'm trying to show this, that's keeping this from being an absolute, it's double the thickness of the clear. So I want to take off any, this is really important to get this right, and there's a gap in here because we have a show quality, I think, a show quality finish on this, and there's a thickness to it. If you're if you're a machinist, you know this. There's a peg that goes in a hole. You add 2/1000ths to it, it doesn't go back in a hole. And that's basically what we have here. We also have this little area up here. I really want this to be nice. And because we're in the middle of the winter and I have plenty of time to do this, that's why I would never do this in the summer if I could possibly help it. Because when the weather is nice, you're always tempted to rush through things. Now, this should fit. That should fit really, really nice. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Now, of course, I got to do the other side and then get the hardware. But even just a little detail like that, it all pays in the very end. Now, even a small part of this, and I may as well just show, these are all metric little things, and I'm replacing them as need be. But getting the clear from underneath there, so this is a flat fit up against the fender, and where it butts up against the fender, if that isn't right, what happens, this piece sticks out, and it's another one of those small little details. And just cleaning up all this hardware, polishing it all up, getting this fit nice and flat, everything, it's all little details. Now by using all relatively the new or refurbished hardware where it's all nice and polished, boy, it makes the final assembly of this, once the fits and finishes are done. I have to remember now, see, I should know this, but I think you have to take this apart to put it back on a motorcycle, but the way this is sequencing up, and why sequencing is so important to me, is because the next warm day I have, I'll take the wheel off and I'll have the choice of putting this on or wait until I have the wheel painted. Now, all these little details, it's all little details, like cleaning up the old hardware, replacing some of the new bolts, getting the right correct washers, it all pays in the end. That's the first part that's assembled. And we're ready to put that back on the bike as soon as we take the front wheel off. And it's got all nice fresh new hardware, nothing rusty, nothing that's going to corrode. Now the next part of this project, I want to try to just rough fit the windshield. Now this is not the windshield that belongs on the bike. We've modified it, cut the fairing, so this may be a little time consuming. And what I'm thinking is, because I don't have a lot of time left in the day, I just wanted to do a dry fit and see if I needed to make any changes. But I don't want to, if something doesn't line up or work out exactly the way I want, it'll be time to punt and think about it. And nothing is better at when you're facing possible challenges, a nice extra cup of coffee. Once that coffee is consumed, this job will go that much easier. I had a feeling this might be more challenging than I thought it would be otherwise. And, well, I want to, step one, make sure there's no rough edges in here that I haven't taken care of. That's not, I didn't want to put a scratch in this if I can. And this really was a lot of, in fact, you know what? I'm getting the horse ahead of the cart here. I want to clean this edge off too. Because one of the things I wanted to have with this clear windshield that I thought would be an upgrade over the other bike had a tinted windshield, and then we had a carbon fiber windshield after we had a little boo-boo, little accident. Now what I thought, I heard this trick that the track day guys use. I don't know if this is going to work, but I won't know until I try it. What they do is they put part of the windshield on. Instead of using bolts, they use zip ties. And the reason for that, supposedly, is I saw this in a magazine. I'm not sure this is going to work, but I wanted to try it, and it's an idea. And anytime there's an idea, you only know if you try it. Now, the purpose of this, okay, let me drop this. If I had a helper here, I wouldn't need to do this. This gives me some freedom back here. Now, the idea is I want to line up the bolts in the front. I want to do these two bolts, get them hand tight. These two hand tight. I don't want anything on here that's putting tension on this in any way. And believe me, I spent a lot of time. It's a funny story. When I went to Circle Cycle to Pete's, he has over 100 windshields in plastic bags with no identification. And Turbo Steve knows this is true. There's no idea if they're Kawasaki, Suzuki, what year. So what we did, we took each one out of the bag until we found about 3 that were close. Then of the 3, I kind of played, you know, like Chopped, the cooking show. And then I had 2 I had to decide, but one was yellow. It actually, I thought, might look cool on it. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to be shooting video through a yellow windshield that's going to look like, I don't know. So anyway, my thought, again, I'm just holding this up with zip ties. The only reason for having the zip ties is I want to be able to, in fact, you know what, I'll put one here. And then I can replace these, of course. This just holds it in place. If I had a friend, I could call him John Zip Tie, but that'll hold it in place while I fit up the bolts. Again, I have all new hardware, and I have these. I wanted to see if these would work. They're kind of self-locking nuts, because one of my things is I don't want to over-tighten the bolts. So when I get these all set, I'm going to take these nuts and put 1 drop of Loctite on them. But first I'll get everything in place and all snugged up, and then one by one, starting in the front, take the nut off, a drop of Loctite. Just like you're torquing down the head of a motor. And I bought these washers, but I don't think I'll need these washers. The washers kind of defeat the purpose of being self-locking. We'll see how that works out. Anyway, what I love about whole Bolt Depot hardware, the stainless stuff never gets all crappy looking, even if you don't polish it. But once I put the bolts back in for the last time, I'll polish the head of them, run them over on a buffing wheel. No detail left unturned. So the zip tie deal looked like it worked out pretty good. That seems like a good tip worth putting on a video. And these nuts look like they're going to work out pretty well. In fact, they don't even, because of the size of these, I don't even need the washer behind them. But again, what I found in the past, I've tightened the back one, then tightened this one, and the whole thing goes. If you start at the front, just like building an exhaust system, start at the engine and tack weld everything toward the back. Don't start at the back and work toward the engine. Good lesson. He drops the thing on the floor. A good lesson to learn. The zip ties work just couldn't have been better. Now, and I've got these bolts in various lengths, and I bought a bunch that were oversized just in case I do need them. And it looks like the way this is going to work out, I don't even need the big washers because these nuts have a nice footprint on them. Again, I'm going to find out. This one may be the exception to the rule. Yeah, it is. Every one is just a little different. I feel like I'm doing dental work here. Okay, now they're all, I got to get the other one. They're all basically hand tight. Now I can start taking them from the front back, taking them out, polishing the head of the bolt, and putting Loctite on them. Well, that couldn't have worked out better. I am so impressed. But we did all this fitting. I had to trim the back, to trim the fairing. I have those parts that I polished up yesterday that go over here. And when we're shooting video of our rides and our friends are passing us and kicking stones up on our fairing, hey, at least we'll be looking through a clear windshield. Once the bolts are polished, get one drop of Loctite on the nut. Catch one thread. I want to torque these down just like you would the head of an engine, but I want to start at the front, do one bolt at a time, and work to the back. And then, even then, hope that this windshield is is not going to be vulnerable, because I know, knowing Pete, this thing has probably been in his shop for 50 years already. And here's one other tip, and this, things that I've learned the hard way. We still have, this paint is still vulnerable and new. So the trick is, when putting the final tightening on a bolt where there'd be tension on the bolt, is use the wrench, not the Allen wrench, so that the nut isn't grinding into new paint. So I can do all my tightening from the back here. I don't want to tighten these from the front and scar up the paint if I can possibly help it. Well, just looking at the assembly, the first day of assembly, that's a big step in the right direction. Hello. Anyway, it's time to go get my grandson. The best part of my day.